I will be showing you how my Palestinian family makes a popular traditional dish from prep to final reveal. Every region in the Southwest Asian, North African world calls this dish something different. Where I come from, it's called warak dawale, which means grape leaves. So we'll start by thawing some grape leaves that we had frozen and preserved a while back. We're going to boil them with some lemons to preserve their green color, as my grandma is doing right here. So here we have a bag of the brand Egypt's Best white milled rice. While interviewing my grandma and great aunt and my mom, all three of whom were making this dish, I learned that in Palestine, warak dawale was traditionally made with durum wheat, also known as frike, before rice was popularized in the region. So it was actually made with a different grain entirely. I think learning about this crop, I realized that rice has historically not been a sustainable food crop in the Mediterranean area due to all the hot, dry summers and the significant droughts. So yeah. The global significance of rice has definitely touched all parts of the world, Palestine included. I think it's important to reflect on the globalization of food crops, similar to what Michael Carolan references in his work, Food Systems. So rice being now a major staple food in over 90% of countries, Palestine being one of them. I thought, along with the reflection on the testimony of my family members, it makes me wonder if the introduction of white rice into our cuisine has kind of stifled its diversity, or perhaps homogenized our culture in any way. I mean, the answer is I hope not, obviously. So let's talk about these grape leaves that my grandma is now laying out flat on the table to prep for filling. According to my great aunt, back home in Palestine, it's ideal for most families to have a grapevine growing somewhere around their house. So this serves as a really accessible and pretty local way to acquire the leaves that you use to make this dish. It's as local as it can get, honestly. And then my grandma was telling me that tending to this plant takes a lot of work if you're going to be using it for food production. So it's not necessarily always an agricultural practice, but, you know, having a plant in the household, in your garden, whether that be in the yard or above the roof, it does help to have that as an access to food. And while most households do have grapevines growing around, this isn't meant to serve as like an agricultural level of food production per se. In fact, in most Arab villages that are still in the land of Israel, also known as the 48 district, which are the Arab villages still around after Israel's occupation, most of those villages only produce enough food as a whole to provide for their households and for their villages. So that's not necessarily enough agricultural movement to like export into the actual like market. My mom talked more about this when I interviewed her. Here is my great aunt marinating some chicken to fry on the side as a complement to the warak dawale. This reminded me of what Calvo and Esquivel wrote in their chapter Tortilleras, Testimonios y Recetas, whenever they were talking about the culinary preparation of a dish outside of one's own comfort zone. It really made me think about what my great aunt was talking about and how the shift in protein choices for this dish that we're making, it honestly has just proven to be based on cultural preferences and like family preferences that can really vary over time. So it made me think that like we as makers of this dish are similar to the Mexica of Tenochtitlan, I believe that's how you pronounce it, in the sense that we're also not purists, and we also have a variety of ways of making a dish that oftentimes break tradition or continue to operate in that tradition. And I think that's really beautiful. So once all the wraps are wrapped, what you'll do next is lay them in a circular pattern, as my mom is doing here in this part. You're just going to layer it until you've used all of your wraps. And then after that, we're going to make a broth made of chicken bouillon, pomegranate molasses, cumin, and salt. which we then pour into the pot until it's submerged. And we place a weighted lid on the pot and let it cook for about 30 minutes to an hour. We let ours sit for probably an hour and a half, so that it really just depends. When you serve warak tawali, you gotta serve it upside down. That's just how it's done. You flip the pot into a tray, like such, and then, courtesy of my uncle, now for the semi-successful big reveal. Thank you for watching.